Welcome to The Code, your guide to health and human performance. I'm your host, Dr. Andrew Fix from Physio Room, a performance-based rehab facility here in Denver. On this podcast, we're going to explore the key areas of your life that impact your overall health and wellness, from sleep hygiene and stress management to nutrition, movement, relationships, and more. We bring you conversations with industry experts and top performers to share strategies they have for cracking the code on health and human performance. Now let's get to today's show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Code. Dr. Andrew Fix here with Physio Room. Thank you guys for being here. Really excited to talk with the founder, CEO, Meghann and Corey Feldman from Trivida Functional Medicine this morning. They have an office located here in the Denver area, and we work with them quite a bit here. So thank you to both for being on here and joining me this morning.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, we've got a very snowy day, so I appreciate you, braving the weather, getting over here so we could record this episode, because I think it's going to provide a lot of valuable information for the people that tune in to listen to this. But whichever one of you would like to start first, Meghann, you're going to start first. Meghann, will you just fill me in or fill the listeners in a little bit on your background and what did you do before that ultimately led you to what you're doing now with Trivida?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have an interesting background. So my background is actually in business. Corey and I have kind of an interesting story. We met about 9 years ago on a little dating website called eHarmony. We are married, for those of you who don't know. And Corey had this idea. He was telling me this idea about wanting to help people and bring his background in medicine into a more integrative approach. And I was just so excited about it. And at the time, being in business and marketing, I was doing a lot of networking, and I was like, you really need to do this. Like, who can I set you up with to start this?
This is our first date, by the way.
This was our first date, yes.
Wasted no time.
Yeah. And fast forward 2 months, and we were starting a business together. I had since taken a step away from the job that I was working at the time to kind of figure out my next steps. It was over the summer, and I said, well, let me just help you kind of get things set up. I can help with the website and marketing and some of those things. And 9 years later, the rest is history. Knock on wood, all has been great. We're married happily now. And so that's kind of my background. But I'm super passionate. I've had my own health journey along the way, and just super passionate about what functional medicine can really do, especially in women's health. Truly women's health is such an underserved market, and so many women are just very much dismissed in our traditional medical community. And so having the opportunity to not only change my own health in a natural way and really get I have Hashimoto's. And so being able to get my Hashimoto's under control naturally, not have to rely on medication, was a huge goal of mine, and something a value that I grew up with in my family. So being able to figure that out for myself made me realize that there's a huge number of women out there that are dealing with similar issues that I've dealt with. And so a huge amount of passion to just support our community and giving them hope that they don't need to be dismissed anymore. And they don't need to just settle for kind of the stock standard medicine that we've really been handed the last decade or so.
Yeah, I love that. And, I'm fortunate to be able to work at a place, Physio Room, where we have a women's health specialist from a physical therapy or a rehab standpoint. And it just blows my mind that, pelvic health, we often call it women's health only because we see primarily women, but, males have pelvises too. But how much, what's the term I want to use? How little emphasis is put on the importance of taking care of ladies through, before, during, and after a pregnancy. And why is rehabilitation not just like an automatic given that's going to happen? Because in my mind, having had numerous surgeries and worked with many people that have had all sorts of surgeries, going through a pregnancy is a whole bigger deal than, an ACL reconstruction, right? Like your whole body changes. There's tons of hormone changes. It's a 9+ month process. And, why is rehab just not an automatic, like a given that's going to happen? So maybe we'll get into a little bit of that. But thanks for sharing that, Meghann.
Yeah.
Corey, what about you? What's your background, and how did after your first date and in 2 months, how did Trivida Functional Medicine come to be?
Yeah. So my background is started in sports medicine. Got my bachelor's degree in sports medicine at the University of Northern Colorado. Went into professional football after that. And in working in professional football, I just saw how professional football players got treated from a health perspective, meaning that they got everything. And rightfully so, they're getting paid millions of dollars to do their job. So they should get that stuff. But I thought, why shouldn't we, as normal people, get all those same things? They had access to all the best, dietitians, rehab specialists, medical care. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if there was a place where a normal person can go and get all the same stuff?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it was birthed, Trivida Functional Medicine. Then I went to PA school. I'm a PA, physician assistant, and worked in family practice, ER, urgent care, and for years saw people just getting poor treatment. I was educated in Western medicine, and I thought for a long time that was all there was. But I knew from having a sports medicine background that nutrition and exercise was important. And I'll tell you that in Western medicine, that is not important to them.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of doctors will tell you nutrition doesn't matter, exercise is don't worry about it. But I knew better than that. So I knew then, okay, then if they're missing that, what else are they missing? Long story short, the straw that broke the camel's back for me to get out of Western medicine was I was working in an local emergency room here in Colorado. And I saw a gentleman who was actively having a heart attack, and he was on all the right medicines, like literally 5 different medicines to prevent this heart attack from happening, but yet it was still happening. And the gentleman ended up passing away that evening in front of all of his family. And it was truly just a turning point for me, saying that there's got to be something better, that this medicine didn't save him.
Yeah.
And he was 20 pounds overweight, and it looked like he didn't really take care of himself. And I just said to myself, what if someone 10 years ago would have turned him around and told him how to eat right, exercise, and do the right things? Would this be happening right now?
Yeah. I think, we're starting to finally realize that. However, I think the big system of healthcare makes it really hard to focus on those things like you're talking about, like prevention. And I forget exactly the phrase, but what do they say? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure type of thing. And I wish that we would continue to build our focus on prevention and on performance, and not just on rehab or aftercare, like care after something has happened. Like using diabetes, for example, there are millions, probably billions of dollars every year spent in the healthcare system just in the United States for something that could be prevented if we take the proper steps earlier on. I think I heard a statistic that it was like 1 in every 7 US healthcare dollars is spent on diabetes. Only that. 1 in every $7. So I appreciate you sharing that. And, for the sake of your clients and our clients that have come your way, I appreciate you guys for opening up an office like this, where that's the focus is, focusing on people's health, not their sickness or their disease or their condition, but focusing on their health and trying to figure out how can we improve that. And I can see here that, the number of medications that you've been able to help people get off of just by focusing on the right things, and not just trying to prevent the wrong things. So you said you've been together 9 years. Is that right? Yeah. So, and this office started very quickly into that 9 years. So how was that? Like, you guys met, you started your relationship personally, but you also started a relationship as, going into business together right after meeting each other. And how has that journey been?
It's, we're really, really fortunate. Most people who hear our story are like, oh my gosh. And many of our family and friends were like, you're crazy. I think most of Corey's friends were like, do not give her your banking information, like stay far away, like really separate yourselves. And Corey's like, I don't know, I just trust her. And I know myself and my integrity. I wasn't planning on doing anything. So, as we went along, it was always Corey's baby and it was his dream. And so as we were early in our relationship, had that relationship not continued, it would have been his, and I would have walked away and let him take and run with it. But I think we have made an incredible team. And when you're in business together and a relationship together, you learn very early on how to communicate effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And we've gone through lots and lots of coaching on communication in just, not only how we communicate professionally with our team, but with each other. And I think that has really served us in a successful way in our personal relationship, because as I'm sure somebody would say, communication is really a foundation of a successful relationship, whether it's business or personal. So I think we got lucky, and thankfully it's been a fairly easy ride from a relationship standpoint and business standpoint. Of course, anytime you're starting a business, there's roller coasters in business, and we've endured and come out the other end of many of them, but we're lucky to have a good relationship. So.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And you're totally right on the communication piece. And, I wouldn't sit here and tell you that I'm the best communicator in the world, but, whenever you're trying to fix problems, whether in business or in personal life, if you really backtrack and try to figure out what led to that problem happening in the first place, it always seems to be that it was either a lack of communication or the way that the communication happened just wasn't clear from one side to the other. Communication seems to be at the root of all problems, right? Between individuals or in business, there's some communication lapse that has happened.
Or in health. We're always looking for the root cause.
Right?
It's all about the root cause.
That's functional medicine is restoring communication in the body through hormones and gut and all these other things.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a perfect segue. The root cause. Right. So, and I know that's something that you guys do here, is trying to help individuals figure out the root cause of what is leading to the symptoms that they're having, that probably is what led them into the office or the multiple other offices that they maybe went to before they wound up here in yours. But what is the typical client that you guys end up working with? What is usually the couple of things that lead somebody in here in the office in the first place to allow you even to be able to do that, to help them try and uncover the root cause of what's going on?
I think the biggest clients we see, if you want to put symptoms to, the biggest clients we see, chronic fatigue, thyroid disease, gut issues, hormone imbalances, autoimmune issues, things like that. And, what leads them in here generally is that they've seen 5 to 10 to 20 different medical providers, and no one has been able to get to the bottom of whatever's going on, and they are just lost and broken, mentally, emotionally, physically, and they just need someone to hold their hand through the process and get them on the other side.
And it's you sort of touched on this before. It's unfortunate that is the process that sometimes these folks have to go through before they wind up in here. Man, why have they seen 5, 10, 20 other people and not been able to get down to what the issue really is? And we see the same thing on the physical therapy side. I recently just got a message from a potential client that, hopefully they wind up coming in the office so that we can hopefully help them address what's going on. But this person they're having foot pain. It's a young girl. She's having bilateral foot pain, both sides. And she's already been to physical therapy. She's been to the podiatrist. She's been to the sports medicine orthopedic office. And basically it sounds like the treatment that she's gotten is take pain medication. Let's do these injections in your feet, and let's make you a pair of custom orthotics to stop what's going on. And none of those things address the cause of the pain, right? The orthotics are just going to cause compensations and correct things from an external device standpoint. And then, of course, the medication and the injections are just going to mask symptoms, but they're not going to fix the problem. So hopefully we end up getting an opportunity to work with this person so we can take a step back and try to figure out what's going on and not just throw some treatments at it, throw some potential solutions. And I'll use air quotes for solutions because they're really more symptom managers at this point.
I think what we see a lot, we're still educating people, which is why this podcast is so great, but we're still educating the community on the fact that people like Physio Room or Trivida exist. We've been trained to follow what our insurance tells us and go to the providers, and we go to our primary care and they say, okay, this is a little bit out of what I know how to do. So I'm going to send you to a specialist, and in our case, an endocrinologist or a gastroenterologist or a neurologist, some sort of ologist, or, in your case, it's like, okay, go see this orthopedic specialist, go see that orthopedic specialist. And then they go to all those people. They don't really have a solution. So they send them to the next person. Then they send them maybe to some place special like National Jewish or Mayo Clinic or something like that. They're like, you're a little bit out, you're weird, or you're not normal, or this is not anything that you're really unique. Mm-hmm. You're really rare. Yeah. This is not something we've seen before. So go here. And then they go there. And, traditional medicine, I think both Corey and I can agree, our medical community, our doctors, our PAs, our nurse practitioners, our nurses, they don't have any ill will. They want to help people, but they're stuck in a system that has them essentially handcuffed. They only have so far they can go. Mm-hmm. They're only allowed, the number of times that Corey wasn't allowed to even order more advanced testing in an urgent care or family practice because that's not their process. Yeah. And so they're really handcuffed. It's not that they want to hurt people or that they don't want to help people. They're just really handcuffed by the system. And, so our goal is to, help people understand that there are people like Physio Room or Trivida or, functional medicine in general that is really this look at you as a whole person and keep digging until we find answers. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think people are looking for. And that's the hope, right? When I do a lot of our discovery calls, I do all of our discovery calls in our office. And when I talk to people on the phone, they just want hope that there's an answer and then that there's an mm-hmm. option, even if it's hard, or even if it's a combination of medication and lifestyle changes. They just want to know that there's an option out there for them to get their life back, to live any normalcy of life. Because, unfortunately, in our case, a lot of our clients come to us very sick. I wish we were working with more prevention. But, in the majority of our clients, they're coming to us very frustrated and broken down and hopeless almost. Mm-hmm. And so we want to get them to a place where we can just provide them a little bit of hope. And that little glimmer of like a light at the end of the tunnel gives them enough push and drive to get through some of the hard stuff mm-hmm. to get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And there's one thing that I wanted to touch on. I think, people that are tuning in, listening to this, they probably know because of the way that you described it, but what's not commonplace in most medical offices, whether those be, in my field on the rehab side or in your field on the more medical side, most offices don't have a discovery call, right? I've never heard of a traditional physician's office, primary care or internal medicine or something like that, doing discovery calls with potential clients to see if that office is the right fit for that individual and vice versa, right? If that individual is the right fit to go there. So just briefly walk me through that. Like, what does that discovery call process look like for you guys? And I know that's 100% complimentary that you guys do that to try and help someone determine, is your office the place that they should come trust to try and help them address their issue?
Yeah. The goal of our discovery call, one is to make sure they understand what we do in our practice, because it is very different and new to some people. So mm-hmm. helping them understand what functional medicine is, what functional medicine can do, how we get the results that we get. And then it's really to understand what their goals are. A lot of what I do is listen. It's just about listening to the client on the other end of the phone share with me what they've been through, what their symptoms are, what their goals are, what they really want to achieve. Because oftentimes, especially, when going back to women's health, we talk to young mothers mm-hmm. Who are dealing with severe fatigue. And, it's sort of in the world of motherhood, it's like, yep, you had a kid, you're just expected to be tired for the next 18 years. Get used to it. Learn to love your coffee. And, that's just what you're saddled with. So helping them understand that that's not normal and that there's a lot of changes happen when you go through pregnancy.
Or they're saddled with an antidepressant too.
Yes.
I see that a lot.
Yeah. Or antidepressant mm-hmm. or something like that. Mm-hmm. So just helping them understand the other way, and then answering questions. A lot of that is about answering questions about how we work, what different opportunities there are, like kind of in general, what our protocols look like and things like that, so they can be prepared for what those are. And just making sure we're a good fit. Is really that first step, because I think a lot of people have a lot of questions and they want to understand. And so I love doing discovery calls. Like I'm really fortunate that I get to do our discovery calls, and I just absolutely love talking to these people on the other end of the phone. And even when we're not the right fit, being able to be like, I hear you and I don't think we're the right fit for you, but here are 3 other people that I think would be. We send a lot of people to physio room. Like I've talked to a couple people recently on a discovery call that we were not the right fit for, and we passed over to physio room. And so it's awesome to be a resource. That discovery call creates a resource. Not only are we, whether or not we're giving them hope that we can help them, or giving them hope that somebody else can help them.
I like to call that, like, you're just trying to be a problem solver for that person. And the solution might not be you or your office, and that's okay. There's a lot of really, really great people out there, whether here in Colorado or elsewhere, and being able to just be a resource for that individual on the other end of the line. And if you're not the right fit, give them other options, goes a long way. And I think just that process in and of itself is like invaluable for the person that's calling in. So say you go through the discovery call and someone ends up actually coming into the office. Corey, what does your guys's, typical process look like? I know Meghann had mentioned back in your previous employment days that there were times where you wanted to do more advanced testing for somebody, and that wasn't part of the typical protocol, and you were sort of handicapped and not able to do those things. When someone does come into Trivida Functional Medicine, what does the typical process look like, and what can somebody expect if they come in as a client?
Right. So after they talk to Meghann and they're found to be a good, we're a good fit for them, they're a good fit for us, they come in and talk to me. And generally they're talking to me for hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on, how long, I can talk, and I love to talk, and I want to make sure that they get all their questions answered. So, I really want to make sure I'm sitting down with them knee to knee and figuring out who they are, what they need, and, trying to be a problem solver for them. And literally, we're going to talk about who you are, what you've gone through. And the biggest thing, I want to happen is new ideas, right? And I don't want to reinvent the wheel here. If you've tried something and it didn't work for you, okay, let's put that off to the side and let's try something new and more advanced. And I really want to build them a plan. That's the biggest thing we're doing is here's how I see this, and here's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, what I'd like to do for you. And here's what the process is going to look like. And that's different for everybody. So really, we just need to come in, we need to sit down, we need to build a plan. And I need to make sure that plan is right for them. And I want to make sure that that's a plan they want to do. And I promise you that we do not do anything crazy here, right? It's always about, meeting in the middle. It's always about, doing what's right for them as not only medically, but also as human beings. Too.
Yeah. And I love that, talking about the plan. And, from clients that I know that have come here, I know there's an extensive testing that goes with that, because you guys don't want to just start doing treatments without having a thorough assessment that, gives you a really good idea of what should you expect to happen with that treatment. But, we're sitting here in the office at Trivida Functional Medicine, and I just see hundreds of frames around the wall of client stories and testimonials that they've left you guys, of just like where they were, why they came in, and what they're able to feel like or do now that they weren't able to do before, after having gone through this process. And it's pretty cool to see those things.
Yeah, we just got a testimonial yesterday.
Was this on social media?
This was on
I read
media.
that. It's awesome, you guys.
Wow.
Yeah.
And to be told that we were better than the Mayo Clinic is, again, a little ego boost there, but that's pretty cool.
Well, I think that's a name that most people know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I was talking with somebody else actually about that testimonial just this morning before I came here, someone else that knows you guys. And we were just talking about how cool it is, like what you guys are doing here. And we sort of were thinking about like, what's different about what you guys are doing compared to the typical place, compared to, the Mayo Clinic. And for the record, I've never been a client at the Mayo Clinic or anything. I don't know what I would expect there, but
I'm sure the Mayo Clinic is amazing.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of awesome things. So we're not bashing the Mayo Clinic,
No.
but the difference that we sort of came down to is it's the client experience, and it's the time and the expertise that you provide that person. That's just different than what you get anywhere else. I've never gone to a physician's office and spoke with somebody for 1 hour, 1.5, 2 hours before. It's usually like 7 minutes
Right.
in and out, right? Whether it's the first day or it's a follow-up visit. So the fact that, maybe on the first day somebody comes in, you're going to be able to carve out the time to spend an hour or more with them to really hear their story, and then develop a plan with that person to address what's going on is pretty cool.
Right. I always say it's my job to figure this person out as a whole. And, you can't do that in 7 minutes, and you can't do that in a day or 2 days. Right. It really takes time. So, yeah. And when I was in the ER, I used to get yelled at all the time for talking too much.
Taking too long.
Taking too long. So I wasn't a good fit for the ER.
I think, what we always say in our practice, it's about putting the puzzle pieces together, right? Like, we as humans are these great, wonderful, giant puzzles, and we're just trying to put all the puzzle pieces together. And sometimes that is the testing is giving us pieces to the puzzle. Sometimes it's their symptoms, what they're feeling, how their experiences are puzzle pieces, and it's lifestyle. And I think, things that make us unique, of course, from traditional medicine, but even from other functional medicine practices, is just, we have really identified early on that our clients need much more bite-sized chunks of information. And so we really developed a process and a plan in how we treat our clients and how we support our clients to make sure that we really gear it towards their lifestyle. Like, if they travel every week for work, and maybe not as much in the last 2 years, but people are getting back to traveling. But we've had clients that travel every single week for work. They can't be spending 3 hours in the kitchen prepping food. So we have to come up with other options for them. If we've had people who are very pill averse or have trouble swallowing supplements, of course, supplementation, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, those are all part of the building blocks in our body. We have to make sure they're getting absorbed into the body. But we figure out other ways to get them into the body, whether it's through IV or liquid vitamins or different things like that, in a way to work around that. And I think that's what makes it unique, because so many of our clients have come in and they're scared. They're like, I have this barrier, I have that barrier, I have this lifestyle barrier, I'm home with my kids all day, And so it's about just meeting them where they are. Like Corey said earlier, it's about meeting in the middle, figuring out and problem solving. How do we get you where we need to get you with what we have to work with?
Yep.
And that's one of our core values, is resourcefulness, because I think you can't always see the options in front of you. And so you need somebody else to brainstorm ways to work around obstacles and things like that. And I think that's that's why we're so successful with clients, even when other people haven't been, because we spend a ton of time really working with them and not against them, or just telling them what to do, or being like, no, you have to change your diet. You can't do that. You can't eat this. That's not part of our plan. Yes, there's definitely things we might suggest we adjust, but it's never a my way or the highway mentality. And I think that's really helps people feel more comfortable.
Yeah. And I think that's so important, because at the end of the day, right, I like to live by this mindset of like, you control the controllables type of thing, where a lot of things are going to happen, but you can't control all those things. All you can control is how you respond to it and what your attitude is around that. And the same thing is true in medicine or in rehab or anything else. If I ever have a client that comes in the office and you can tell by what they're saying or how they're saying it, that their mindset is just, I need you to fix me. The majority of the initial time that we have together is going to be spent just helping them understand that I can't do that. right? I cannot fix you. Now that's my last name. That's pretty cool. So people ask me that. They ask me if I've changed my name, but no, ultimately my job is to be a guide, right? And your guys' job is to be a guide. And your passion is to be a guide to help people understand options that they could do and what recommendations you have. But at the end of the day, you're not with them when they go home. Like, you can't do it for them as much as we would like to. So the job really is, right, try to help that person understand the purpose behind the recommendations and why you think that will be beneficial for them. And then help them understand in the bite-sized chunks, like you talked about, Meghann, like, how can we slowly put these things into place to really build the habits that are going to sustain success for the long term? Because you can't do it for them.
No, I always say, and if you come into my office and talk to me, you'll hear me say this, I'm not a healer. Right. I wish I could touch you and heal you, right? But I can't. I'm a scientist and I use data to help you heal yourself. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I love that you say that.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. It's, I like to give people the tools. You like to give people the tools that they can use to address their issues. Because really, at the end of the day, they're in charge of their health.
Right.
And that's how you maintain it, right? So we would love to work with our clients forever, but ultimately we have lots of people we want to help, and we want them to get on with their lives and be able to maintain everything they've achieved with us. And if you don't give people tools, then they cannot maintain something like that. You have to give them the tools to continue maintaining it for the rest of their life. And I often say in my discovery call, like, we're building your toolbox, right? Like, all of a sudden you now get out, and 10 years from now you have a symptom. You go back to that toolbox and you're like, okay, maybe my vitamin D is low. Maybe this is low. Maybe I need to adjust my diet. And all those things, whether or not you do them. And that's, of course, part of the psychology, but you at least know them and you have the tools to make those changes and to recognize the things that you can change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, so far, this has been fun. There's one thing that I want to make sure we touch on. And don't forget here, as I'm writing some little notes to myself. But you've explained this to me before, Corey, when you guys came and spoke to our office and when I was here in your office. But on this show, The Code, A Guide to Health and Human Performance, I like to ask people, especially when they work in the health and wellness field, like, sort of like what your code is or what your key points are, like what your recommendation are, like the main pillars to health and wellness or to living a healthy life. So if I were to ask you that question, like, what are your key areas that you would give somebody as like their things that they should focus on to live a healthy, fulfilling life? What would those things be?
Sure. Absolutely. And again, if you come talk to me, this is exactly what we'll talk about, right? For you specifically, the person who's talking to me. But 5 things that we need to address. And number one on that list is the gastrointestinal system, the gut. And again, I could talk for hours and hours and hours about this, but in a nutshell, the gastrointestinal system is connected to literally everything in your body. This is how your body gets nutrients and hormones and everything like that. So we have to make sure your gut is good. And that's the first thing we check by checking something called the microbiome. And also with gut, we need to make sure your nutrients are good. So again, to make sure of this stuff, we do stool testing and blood testing and urine testing to really figure this out. We're not guessing. I take the biggest thing I want to do is take the guesswork out of the human body. So we have to check the microbiome, we have to check the micronutrients, and we have to make sure you're not eating foods that are bad for you, whether it be gluten, dairy, soy, blueberries or bananas. I don't know, right? We got to figure out that you make sure your diet and your nutrition is right for you. So that's really number one is the gut. Number 2 is hormones. We have to make sure that hormones, and speaking of communication, that's how your body communicates. We have to make sure that your hormones are working for you, not against you, and that all 50 major hormones in your body are working appropriately and together. Number 3, and this is the big one and really the hardest thing I have to do, is fix your stress. And when I say stress, I'm talking about 3 types of stress. So there's emotional stress, physical stress, and chemical stress. And what I always tell people is I cannot fix emotional stress. I'm not a therapist. I'm not the Dalai Lama. I'm not Tony Robbins. But just because I don't work on it doesn't mean it's not like one of the most important stresses to fix. So make sure, and I always tell people this, make sure you are fixing your emotional stress however you need to. But that is not my forte. My forte is physical and chemical stress. So, a lot of people that I work with, I send to you because, physical stress is bone pain, joint pain, spine pain, you name it. They need, a physical therapist, or I have a hard time calling you a physical therapist because you guys are so much more than that.
Right. Sure. I would appreciate that. Yeah.
So
sometimes I don't like to introduce myself as a physical therapist because I don't know what perceptions the person I'm talking to has of what that means.
A lot of people I talk to, like, oh, they're just going to tell me to use some bands and sit on a lacrosse ball.
Do some stretches. That's my favorite word. People think you just do stretches. Yeah, you're right. That's not what we do. But
so, physical stress, we got to make sure their body's working appropriately. But, gut is a physical stress. Sleep issues are a physical stress. Nutrition deficiencies, hormone imbalances, all these different things are physical stresses we have to fix. And then something that a lot of people don't think about is chemical stresses, all the pollution and molds and heavy metals and just junk our bodies are exposed to day in and day out, that we just need to make sure that your body's getting rid of appropriately, because if it isn't, that's just going to cause chronic inflammation. And then, the fourth pillar is really detoxification, making sure your body's getting rid of junk appropriately. And I always joke, when I talk about detoxification, I am not talking about cayenne pepper cleansing or juice fasting or sticking a hose up your rear end. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about giving your body the tools to do what it does naturally and get rid of junk on its own. And then, the final pillar in my mind is exercise or moving your body. And a lot of people, when I say exercise, they automatically go to, oh, you're going to make me be a triathlete or an Ironman or something like that. No, all I ask is that you move your body, whether it's dance, yoga, Pilates, hiking, walking, whatever it is, just move your body and don't be stagnant.
Yeah.
So those are the 5 pillars. And what I have found over the last 9, almost 10 years now is if these 5 pillars are addressed to depth, not just superficially, but deeply, we get people's health back.
Yeah, I love that. And just to kind of go over that list again, 1 through 5, the gut and the microbiome, your hormones and how your body is able to communicate, stress broken down into the emotional, physical, and chemical side of things, detoxification, and movement. And yeah, you're totally right on the movement part. I think a lot of times, there will be people that will meet who maybe they're not exercising. And I think sometimes the reason is because they think in order to do that, they need to do some intense form of movement that's significantly more than what they feel like they can do. So because of whether it's fear or being unsure or just not knowing what to do, they just don't do anything. And I'm like, just go do anything. Go for a walk, go for a very casual bike ride, or it doesn't matter. Just get some movement in, and that's going to improve all aspects of your life. I think I like to think of exercise as, it's the intensity and the type of exercise you do at the end of the day just changes like what kind of functions that you have an easier time doing, right? The more weights that you lift and the heavier things you pick up, the stronger you're going to be when you have to pick up something heavy in your daily life.
Right.
But you don't have to be a bodybuilder in order to get significant benefits from lifting weights, or you don't have to run a marathon in order to get significant cardio benefits just from walking or doing some other light, rowing or something like that.
Right.
So yeah, no, I love those 5 pillars that you guys focus on. So this has been really fun. So I already send people here like regularly because I love what you guys do in the office. But for anyone listening to this episode, if they wanted to schedule one of those discovery calls, or if they wanted to get in touch with you or find you online, where can people do that so we can make the process a little bit easier for them to get started?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is trividafunctionalmedicine.com. On there is an easy place to click in and schedule a discovery call. Links to a calendar so you can find a time that works for you. And we try to have lots of flexibility with different times of day, even evenings if we need to do it after work. So that's really simple. And our telephone number is 720-428-8312. So you can also give our office a call, and we can get you scheduled that way if you can't get to the website. And, however we can help, we love to just talk. I always encourage people, if you have questions, if you're just interested in knowing more, schedule a discovery call. It's not taking up our time. We absolutely love doing them. And it's really a joy for me to have those conversations and just answer questions and get people pointed in the right direction if it's not us, or show them how we can help them. So I really encourage people to take advantage of that opportunity, so we can just chat and learn more about each other, and I can and learn more about what your goals are, so I can really get you pointed in the right direction. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think you guys hopefully can hear through the through your headphones or through your speakers, just the enthusiasm and the passion that's coming through in this episode from Meghann and Corey. It's very clear to me that, in listening to Meghann say, whatever time of day, we'll figure out a time that works with your schedule to get that discovery call in. It's not work at the end of the day when you're just doing what you're extremely passionate about. And this business wouldn't have started if it wasn't for that passion to do something, there's something better out there. So thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to be on here and to have this episode. And to everyone that tuned in to listen to this, thank you for being here, for checking out this episode with Meghann and Corey Feldman of Trivida Functional Medicine. We will catch you guys next time here on The Code. Thanks so much.